What is it?
Well, it's called a randomizer, and it's fitted to the guidance systems and operates under a very complex scientific principle called potluck. Now, no one knows where we're going. Not even the Black Guardian.
Not even us.
Hello and welcome to the Randomizer Podcast, episode 30. I'm Tim.
And I'm Chaz. My God, episode 30.
Here we go.
Who'd have thought? Do you remember that show 30-something?
Yes, I liked it.
Yeah, I did as well.
Loved the music.
Yeah. It did sell as a sort of unrealistic sort of, depiction of how our lives would be in our 30s.
Yeah, I barely worked in advertising at all.
Yeah, I barely slept with anybody. Yeah, I mean, there was no dinner parties. Well, not many of them, I suppose. But, it's just, I feel that our 30s was sort of like the twilight of our youth. I mean, I remember one party I went to. Do you remember that girl I was talking about last time?
Sharon on the bus.
Yeah, that's it, Sharon. I did actually meet her one more time at this party.
Oh, really?
And we got on really well. We were having a few drinks and stuff, and the night was going swimmingly. Mm-hmm. And eventually she slept with my best friend in the end. Well, I say my best friend, I mean imaginary friend.
She ran off with your imaginary friend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they still together?
Yeah, apparently. Well, Donald, that's his name, they set up a house in Chiswick.
Is he a hypnotherapist?
He's an accountant.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, he's an accountant, and I don't know. I think she works in advertising. So the whole dream worked out for them.
Yeah.
I still get some messages from Donald every now and again. Whenever I close my eyes, I hear the screamings and the gnashing and the wailing.
So that's your 30 joke, is it?
Joke.
Hello, welcome. We have stuff to talk about, quite a lot of it. There are going to be spoilers this time for every episode of Doctor Who up to and including Legend of the Sea Devils, every official BBC Doctor Who casting announcement that there's been. Also for Gormenghast, the BBC series from 2000 based on the books, which we watched. And yeah, a lot to say about that.
And of course, spoilers for the Tomorrow people, the Doomsday Men.
Yes, although if anything deserved to be spoiled, it's probably that. Well, there's not been a huge amount of Doctor Who news since last time, but there has been the official announcement of the casting of Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, which will be legend. Wait for it. Legendary. And of course, fans of How I Met Your Mother will get that.
Which I have only seen one episode of, so I don't get it at all. Oh well. Okay. He was in It's a Sin, of course.
Yes. And he's also been in Starship Troopers.
Series of unfortunate events.
Yes, he's Count Olaf. Obviously Doogie Howser. And
he's the kind of psychic one in Starship Troopers, isn't he?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's fun.
And he's been in all the Harold and Kumar movies.
All of them?
All of them.
How many are there?
3. And he's basically been a misogynist stoner. He manages to play misogynist really well.
No, he didn't in It's a Sin.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, great actor. Lots of screen credits to his name. Obviously, a big sort of name in the States as well. So.
Definitely,
yeah.
And obviously a Tommy winner as well. Mm-hmm. He's done obviously a lot of music.
It's for eating the most Frosties in one sitting.
Yeah,
isn't it?
basically.
Yeah. They have not officially announced who he is playing.
No.
Although, again, Twitter has been providing plentiful spoilers there, so be careful.
Yeah. Thank you, Twitter.
Yeah.
But the 2 official pictures that they have released of him, the first one, he is basically got an apron on with some tools in it, and the other one, he is in Top Hat and Tails.
Yes, it's sort of in a street or something, that one, isn't it?
So.
Yeah, he looked a bit sort of somewhere between like Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly in that.
Yeah,
Or
and
maybe with a touch of Willy Wonka thrown in.
Yeah, and in the other picture he looked a bit like Geppetto.
Yeah. So, yeah, very intriguing. And that's for the 60th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we do know that Neil Patrick Harris is playing, according to Russell T Davies, the greatest enemy the Doctor has ever faced. But that's about it. Are there enemies that the Doctor has kept his back to and hasn't faced? Anyway, moving on. We've literally just read an article in the hot off the digital press's new Doctor Who magazine. It's a sort of letter from Russell, like he used to write, where he talks about the way that they had to manage the release of the information about the casting of David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Anything else new? There's been the release of the season 22 Blu-ray.
Yes.
Some of us got it twice.
Yeah. A very, very quick explanation. I had ordered it a while ago. It was supposed to sort of come on the day, it didn't. I phoned them up because it was saying a week later or something. And they had copies of it because if I'd have ordered it again, it came. Anyway, basically, I ordered another copy. They gave me a £20 Gracia voucher. So, and I've sent the other one back. So, I'm not a bit smug or anything, but I got it for 24 quid.
Wish somebody would pay me 20 quid to watch Time Lash.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, now that's a lovely thing. We'll maybe talk more about how they've updated the episodes and the extra features once we've had a chance to.
I've only watched Attack of the Cybermen so far, but the behind the sofas are very good.
I've heard that as well, yeah. Who was it Sylvester teamed up with?
It's Sylvester and Wendy Padbury. And then obviously Colin and Perry and Michael Wisher.
Oh, right, cool.
Yeah. Perry, sorry, Nick Opperheim.
Ah, yes. Now, and the Doctor Who and the Daleks film has been released, and we will talk about that more in a short while.
Yeah.
But that's about it for Doctor Who news and releases and so on. As well, we just wanted to say that we've been watching a bunch of other sci-fi TV that's been coming out. We're not going to spoil for any of these, so we've been watching the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Really enjoying it.
I only noticed about 4 episodes in that the eye in Kenobi is a lightsaber. And the logo. Oh, it's very cute. Nice little bit of graphic design.
Yeah, but I mean, let's say, not going to spoil anything for it, but I mean...
that bit where he goes to the Dalek master base and... Sorry.
Master base? Masturbating Daleks?
Oh, that's ruined a good joke.
God almighty. Oh, dear. Yeah, Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor's great. Really, really good. I'm enjoying all the characters. Some of the new characters in it, and some of the more familiar ones. And it's pretty good all round.
I think it's sort of coexisting for me alongside one of the other series we've been watching, which is Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
They both share the thing of being slotted into existing continuity, you know? And also, I think they both are doing their thing with a confidence and a kind of, certainly the Strange New Worlds is really lovely. I think I said to you the other day, it's not taking itself too seriously.
No, that's what I found the most about it. All the characters gel nicely. They're all very likeable, but they all have this... They share a really good chemistry because there's some really nice interplay, especially Nurse Chapel.
She's my favourite.
I mean,
totally.
she is great.
Yeah. I think also Doctor Who fans should look out for Lorna Bucket.
Yeah, she's playing Laan Noonien Singh.
Well, that's an interesting name.
Well, of course, that's from the classic series, Khan Noonien Singh.
What I also haven't watched yet is The Time Traveller's Wife, but you've been watching that. And you're saying it was first of at least 2 series.
Yeah, I only actually found out when I was watching the last episode because it ended and I thought, oh, fuck off. And then I found out there was another series, so... I won't say anything about it other than I'm really enjoying it. And, well, it's about time Stephen Moffat actually did the original source material.
He's been practicing for years.
Yeah, he's told this story God knows how many times. It's HBO, but his wife...
Sue Virtue.
Sue Virtue, is involved in it.
Sue Virtue. It sounds like a superhero.
Yeah.
It's like Captain Noble and Sue Virtue.
But it's lovely. The 2 leads are great. Actually, the leading lady is...
Rose Leslie.
Yeah, she was Ygritte in Game of Thrones. The other guy, I'm not 100% sure what he was in. I think it might have been Supernatural or something.
Right, I don't think I've recognised him.
Yeah, but he's really good. I mean, the cast is great, all very likeable. Just really tight sort of script, the way Stephen Moffat does it, and sort of likes those little complicated stories. But yeah, it's very good.
I enjoyed the book. I mean, it must have been about 10 years ago, the book now.
Yeah, see, I've never read the book and I haven't seen the movie.
The movie's quite saccharine.
Yeah, I heard it was. So I was completely fresh to it, and I'm really, really enjoying it.
I think I watched the movie on a plane.
Yeah.
So it might have accounted for why I wasn't completely immersed in it, but yeah.
It's Eric Bana, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And Rachel McAdams.
Aye. And, we'll see what the Mufti goodness does to that when I get around to watching that.
Mufti goodness.
Full of Mufti goodness.
A man is the sum of his memories, a Time Lord even more so.
It is time for your Cheating Memory, which is the part of the show where we randomly select an old Doctor Who story to rewatch using the randomizer.net, a rather lovely website that will just randomly generate a Doctor Who story for you.
I was just going to say, wouldn't it be great if it randomly generated a Doctor Who story?
Well, we tried that a few years ago on a fan fiction forum, and the results were mixed, to be fair. Last time it came up with the Daleks, almost right back to the beginning.
Oh my god, I could not contain how excited I was to be watching the Daleks again.
And after we'd cleaned up, we watched it, and that was, I mean, God, what to say? It's fair to say this was what secured the future of the programme.
Definitely.
The Daleks were derided as dustbins or pepper pots, but they're an absolutely iconic design, and still very kind of alien and strange and menacing in the hands of the right director, I think.
You make a really interesting point there, actually, because I know we're going to get onto it, but the Daleks, Doctor Who and the Daleks movie, they have a new commentary on the 4K, and it's Rob Shearman, Mark Gatiss, and Kim Newman.
That sounds good.
And they're all sort of, like talking, and they said that this, because of the way it was Terry Nation, because of the way it was written, it's sort of, this is Doctor Who, this is how basically it was genesis of Doctor Who as a thing. Although we had the pilot before it, this was what secured the future, like you say.
Yeah, and it's arguably the Daleks themselves are the single most enduring and recognisable thing from Doctor Who. I mean, you could argue maybe the TARDIS, but I think the Daleks probably top the list.
I would say so, yeah.
It's probably, if you did word association with person in the street, you would say Doctor Who and they'd say go away nutter or something.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I mean, if they did a point, what would be a Doctor Who pointless? Or if there is Doctor Who pointless?
Well, I suppose Doctor Who monsters, it would be pretty high scoring probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done a few Doctor Who's on pointless. It crops up every now and again. Yeah, they had a Companions one, which I think Stephen Taylor and Melanie Bush were the pointless answers.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But they had it as it was a choice. Classic Doctor Who was a choice in the kind of, you get 4 selections for the final category.
Oh, right.
And it was up there time and again over months. And when somebody somebody finally did, and I was so happy. And then of course there's that thing when you've got detailed knowledge of something, you don't know what's obscure. So it was like,
that's very true, actually.
Yeah, it was basically name stories from first 2 Doctors, 3rd and 4th, or 5th and 6th, and it was pointless answers that people hadn't mentioned. So I'm like, you can probably imagine things like 5 Doctors or the big, the Genesis.
Have you noticed, by the way, how I steered you off topic?
Well, yeah, we were supposed to be talking about the Daleks, weren't we?
Right.
Well, it's a timely arrival on the randomizer for us because obviously they have just released the Blu-ray of the film, and the second film is coming out shortly as well. They're going to be shown in cinemas, although not very often. I've just today realised with a bit of heartbreak I'm going to be out of the country when they're showing it in Glasgow. But Chaz is going to go with our friend Davey, and is he going as well?
Yeah, and
Connor. And so they will gloat mercilessly afterwards, and we can report on that.
I'm going to text you from the theatre.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah.
We'll probably
I'm going to live stream it.
But maybe you should do what you did for Sea Devils and get it to me in my exile. No, it's a bit of unfortunate timing, because I would love to see it on the big screen, but I will look forward to enjoying it on Blu-ray anyway.
Oh, so. Yeah. I'm very excited to see it on the big screen.
And in that version, Peter Cushing plays the Doctor, of course, but his role is played by William Hartnell in the TV series. I'm going to get sort of.
You really are. We might actually get correspondence because
Oh
of
God, at last. Yeah, but no. What else? I do have a sort of tie into it beyond all the kind of obvious things that have been said about it over the years, which was when I was, I think, in my kind of mid-teens, maybe 14, 15. And I've forgotten how, but somebody I knew said they knew somebody who'd worked on Doctor Who.
Oh, right.
I think it was like a friend of my parents or something. Found out that I liked the programme, and they gave me the address of a man called Bernard Wilkie. And Bernard Wilkie was one of the founding members of the visual effects department in the BBC. And so I wrote him a couple of letters and he wrote back. And I've now, these are either in a box in my mum's attic somewhere or lost to the mists of time. And I don't remember much about them, but he did talk about some of the kind of designing of the Daleks and the realisation of the prop as well. And so that was a lovely thing. If I ever find them again, I'm going to have to sort of type them up and share them with the world, you know, because he was very kind in writing back. And this was long enough ago that, you know, there wasn't email or anything like that. But so that was my kind of... Yeah, that was my one little unique anecdote pertinent to the Daleks.
I think my whole relationship with this particular story is basically back to, obviously, the first time I'd seen it was on VHS. And it's suitably, you know, a sort of, obviously, not as good, say, as the version that's available now, you know, in terms of being cleaned up. But
they took all the sex scenes out and stuff.
They did, yeah. I mean, I
reckon Barbara and Aladon, there was definitely a thing going on there.
Definitely.
Because, you know, they got a little moment together when they're going away at the end.
And Ian was sort of nudging himself.
They fall asleep, like, she lies down on his legs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, so... Anyway.
Saucy minx.
Now who's derailing who?
Exactly. Yeah, I actually still have the videotapes, even now. I know it's tragic. But... I just have this lovely, cosy feeling when I'm watching the Daleks because it's long. I used to love when a Doctor Who, long Doctor Who stories, black and white especially. Most people hate them, you know, because they just seem to drag. But I always used to love it because it was like a Sunday. It would sort of take up a Sunday for me. And it was a wonderful way of just enjoying Sundays. And I have such a love for this story. William Hartnell is brilliant. Ian and Barbara are the perfect companions. And Susan's there as well.
At least she gets a bit of kind of, you know, she's very brave going out to the forest and all of that. And there's that sort of quite clunky running on the spot acting as they wave branches in her face. But I think... You know, it really drives home watching it again just how early the character of the Doctor is in its development. You know, because we're not long ago he was bashing in cavemen's skulls with rocks, or about to, and here he sort of jeopardizes everybody for the kind of the pursuit of his curiosity. I did wonder if there's something in that kind of, you know, the theme is obviously kind of nuclear war and the kind of horrors of that, but I wonder if there's something in Terry Nation writing that about the kind of selfishness of science, you know, in pursuing its goals at the expense of everything else, that sort of chimes in with the development of the nuclear bomb. And
I think there is, you know, it's, you know, there's benefits of science, but there is also the pitfalls. And I
mean, it's a cliche now.
Yeah, okay, it is.
I think
but
it's close enough to World War II.
Yeah, of course, of course.
That shadow looms large over the.
I mean, it is that
themes.
sort of because it was a big thing in America, wasn't it, in the 50s?
The nuclear bomb,
the atomic age, you know, and everything. Monsters were being made out of, you know, atomic weapons and so on. So this is a British version of it, done a bit more seriously, admittedly on less of a budget. But, you know, I mean, really and truly, it's the birth of an icon. It really is. It's I mean, like we were talking about earlier, the design of the Dalek is a British icon. It's like the Mini, you know, the Mini Cooper, or...
Only easier to drive.
Yeah. But, you know, or the red phone box, you know, it's when people see a Dalek, you know, they know it's a British thing. And I'm not advocating this is independence.
I've got
work here.
spares from a Union Jack colour scheme Dalek.
Yeah, well,
They
there is
almost
actually
went-
a Union Jack call scheme Dalek.
Where?
Oh, you know the 12-inch remote control model?
No.
They did a Union Jack one, I swear to
I wonder
fuck.
if it was considered for Victory of the Daleks. As a,
Possibly.
for the colour
but
scheme choice.
that wouldn't really be very good in terms of, it'd be a good...
camouflage?
It wouldn't be good camouflage, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
let me think of the shape of it. It's not going to you're not going to stick it for a tree on the battlefield. But as I say, look, that strangely shaped rock seems to be waving its arms at us.
I say Fritz.
Yeah, I don't know why my German soldiers are speaking with
they've
posh
got-
accents. And that was this is one of those early war films where everybody spoke in RP.
Yeah. Perfect clipped English.
What else? I've always quite liked the format of journey through perilous landscapes, and whether it's caves and mountains or alien cities full of traps.
They did it with Keys of Marinus as well, and that
And
was
about 12 other-
animation
Yep.
and every other Dalek story he wrote, I think.
Oh, Pyramids of Mars, Death to the Daleks. There's so many kind of, but I was so strangely fond of those.
Yeah.
So I was interested in picking out what isn't there yet. If you think of what a Dalek story involves, and obviously Davros, but the Daleks have quite long conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
not
They also have pens
That's right. Yeah, they've got stock
and
pens.
food for some bizarre reason.
Presumably, kind of imbibe nutrients somehow. Is it all static electricity?
I don't think. Well, I don't know, but I don't think they grow fruit though, do they?
Oh, why not? Maybe they make smoothies.
Jesus. Yeah, they've got chairs, so maybe that where Davros got that chair on Scarrow was the
It's the
last
same one. Yeah. But also, I don't think the kind of classic do
Yeah,
sound effects.
none of that's there. I don't think Rel.
No, I don't. I
has
think the
happened
countdown. Do they specify a unit for the countdown? I can't remember.
yet. Yeah,
It
possibly.
might be just seconds, but I don't know. There's things that you think are
And
everywhere
obviously, like you say, they run it like dodgems. They sort of,
off
you
the
know.
electricity. Yeah, but it's lovely stuff. And
Yeah, it really is.
I think I must have seen the Cushing film first before the VHS release
I
because it
would
was
have
like
as well.
it was always on the telly when I was a kid.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, about
Yeah.
bank holidays. It's got that bank holiday feel to it.
Yeah, well, now with the Blu-ray release, every Sunday can be a bank holiday Sunday.
I've got to say 3 times, and I was going to interrupt you, but it's 4K release. Please get it right, because
What did I say?
you've been saying Blu-ray.
No, it's that as well, isn't it?
Well, it's got a Blu-ray with it, but it's a 4K release.
But what
And I know
format
I'm-
is the 4K?
I know
You
I'm
don't
being,
put it in your toaster to watch it.
I know I'm being pedantic, but there
Well, you're a
already
Doctor Who
has
fan.
been a 4. Yeah, exactly. I think you will find.
Well, there's already been a Blu-ray.
Yeah, there already has, and this is especially a 4K
I
release. and
apologise to everybody for
I'm-
letting down the quality
Yeah,
of
I'm
fact-checking.
evangelical. Evangelical?
You're Evangeline Lilly.
About 4K.
Okay.
Jesus, couldn't get that out.
Yeah, that's probably why you're not getting much success with your evangelism. It's like by the time you said, "Have I told you about 4K?" They've already slammed the door.
Have you heard the good news?
It's like it's a high resolution video format. It's like, oh jeez. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Picky.
DVD is the work of the devil.
We got anything else to say about the Daleks? I think you'll find it's called the Dead Planet.
Oh, Jesus. I do like the designs of the rest of it, the city.
Yeah. Nice
I
corridors.
love the corridors and stuff, I mean, obviously this was our very first in a very long line of Doctor Who corridors.
I mean, technically, you've got a school corridor and Unearthly Child, but
Yeah.
nobody runs down it, so
Yeah, exactly. There's no running,
no running in the school corridors.
but Mr. Bronson might have to stop you.
Oh yeah.
Dear.
Somebody should CG Michael Sheardon to the back of that scene.
Should they? Oh, isn't Clara already CG'd?
No, probably, yeah.
But no, it's a great little design, and it was actually quite well recreated in Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar.
Yeah. That was clearly a labour of love to reproduce a lot of that stuff.
Absolutely, and the cliffhanger to episode 1 is possibly one of Doctor Who's finest. Where you see Barbara being menaced by a plunger.
The floor manager with a plunger.
Yeah. But, they don't spoil the look until episode 2, which I think is great.
Yeah.
You know, they keep you guessing
it's a mystery.
what the fuck is it,
Yeah.
you know? And, I mean, she plays a blinder. I just think Jacqueline Hill is absolutely amazing.
The other great cliffhangers when they've taken the creature out in the blanket and the claw just comes out.
That's really good as well.
Yeah, that's lovely.
They sort of skating the line, you know, of sort of just giving you enough to make it
Just for a few
seem
nightmares.
creepy,
Yeah.
you know.
Sweet.
But yeah, I mean, it's very difficult though when you think about it. How can you? We all know about the impact it had.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to imagine the impact of it because it was everywhere. I suppose the closest we've came to it, I mean, okay, the 70s it was very popular, but I suppose the closest is when it sort of came back, second series, you know, when of the toys and everywhere you walked into, Doctor Who.
There have been several attempts over the years to kind of make a replacement for the Daleks because Terry Nation was keen to take them away and make their own series and so on, but they've always kind of fallen flat. I think we said it an episode or two ago about if you're trying to do it.
Yeah, if you're trying to do it, it's never going to work. Funny enough, they mentioned that on the commentary as well.
Yeah.
Gatiss says that he thinks personally, you know, apart from things like the Cybermen, he said it's only really the Weeping Angels that's really sort of came close, you know, at being that iconic, terrifying villain.
Yeah. I don't know if the world we live in now, if people do run around in playgrounds being monsters off the telly anymore.
Who knows?
You know,
it's very difficult to
obviously
say.
Weeping Angels lends itself to a good playground game with, like, sort of...
Well, I suppose
don't
it
look
does,
at me.
because it's statues, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's like
that
reverse
thing.
statues.
Yeah.
But they, yeah.
Mind you, it's been years since I played.
Well, whenever I tried to go to a playground and hang around and find out, there was trouble.
I did do it in Korea one time, but people kept shooting at me.
Nice. Should we choose another?
Look, when I give the word, press the button.
The big one?
Yes, maybe it works in conjunction with the others.
What can top the Daleks?
The Cybermen.
Cybermen, yeah, obviously. Okay, here goes.
All right, well, let's try and find out. Now, what could it be?
Deep breath. Your first Capaldi. That was a deep breath, well done.
Yeah, it was. Actually, yeah. It's almost as if I knew you were going to choose it.
Well, I wish it was listen,
Yeah.
if you're going to react literally.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's great, actually. Yeah, and that's a double episode.
Is it a
Nearly.
longer one?
Well, I think it's about 70 or 80 minutes.
Oh, here we go, 70, yeah. it
And
tells me
they
here.
got a cinema release.
Oh, deep breath. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah, no, I've said it before plenty of times. I was slow to warm to Capaldi, and yeah, I think I've seen it relatively recently. 'Cause I've been watching through
'cause
his
you're on, what, series 10 you're
what's next for us? We're just watching the pilot. So
God, you're nearly at the end of Doctor Who.
I know.
I mean, God, what? You've
It's
only
a shame there was
got,
never a
what,
13th Doctor. Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
ouch,
alright.
ouch. Yeah, well, it's nice to see the Paternosters. They're always good fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, there's some really good funny bits in that
Yeah.
with Strax and Clara.
Yeah, no, I love it. Quiet boy. I do think, I remember my thought at the time was a new Doctor has never had to have the old one phone up and say it's all right, he's okay.
I love that.
I mean, it's a new twist, but at the time I was a bit like, this is not
I do think
feeling
that-
confident.
I don't know, actually. I think that's actually showing a lot of confidence by doing that, you know, making that sort of, you know, like this Doctor will be able to, so he can, you know, show you, give you that last emotional gut punch.
I just love Matt Smith so much. It was like
Oh, God.
dangling him in front of you again one more time, you know. But
I know.
yeah,
Well, he might get dangled again, you never know.
when Moffat comes back, yeah, great.
Yep. 5 years.
Great. So, deep breath. We will come back to you with thoughts on that.
Cool.
Lovely.
Your report?
We found and destroyed the enemy.
Any complications?
No complications.
I wanted to try a new feature. And Jazz knows nothing about this yet.
Oh,
so,
shit.
But we're going to call this No Complications.
Oh, I saw a new No Complications the other day.
You did?
Yes, Nick Briggs was talking about Doctor Who and the Daleks, right? And in that film, they're going, "It is the of the city." what will you do? You know, and it's exactly the same.
Brilliant.
So, anyway.
For those who don't know what the hell we're talking about, how have you got this far into the podcast? No Complications refers to the wonderful bit in the Day of the Daleks,
Yes.
which was cruelly removed by the upgraded version, where one of the Ogrons suddenly sort of jumps about, what was it, your phrase, jumps about 400 IQ points. Wasn't
Oh, God, it's amazing.
I'll play the clip.
Yeah, you play the clip, and it's once you see it, you never can unsee it. And I pointed this out to Tim, and it was sort of like a moment of clarity.
Strange, hairy clarity.
Yeah.
But no, so my idea here is that I'm going to use the randomizer a few times to get a few stories, and we're going to just pick quickly pick a favourite moment that falls into either that kind of wonderful, clunky, no complications category,
Okay.
or it's just wonderful if we can't think of anything.
Yeah,
if there's
okay.
nothing that's so bad it's good, we'll go for just good.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
whatever story we get, we're trying to pick something that just gives us a bit of joy.
Right.
Through
Fair
whether
enough.
intentional
One way
or
or
not.
another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Okay.
meant to or not.
I get it.
So here we go. Praxius, yes, brilliant.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
What gives me joy about Praxis is how much Chaz hates it.
Fucking hell.
Talk about in at the deep end.
Oh, I can't actually think of anything that gives
Well, I
me
like the
fucking
fact that
joy about that.
I like the fact that Yaz ran off into the submarine with no expectation to be able to breathe, and was just damn lucky, really. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
All right, shall we do another one?
Wait, no, the submarine?
Yeah, it was a submarine.
Oh, Praxius!
Yeah.
I don't think there's an anger couldn't. See, it's all fucking going
Blurring
into one.
into one.
I think the YouTubers, you know, like, going to the best places in the world,
And
and,
it's the
they
dump.
end up in
Yeah.
that fucking dump.
I read somewhere that was originally different. I think it was a DWM interview or series review.
I'd heard
that
something about that.
It was
yeah.
rescripted, and they were actually meant to be dropped off there by somebody, and so they
Yeah.
were stuck, which would have made a bit more sense. All right, let's do another. Mission to the Unknown. Oh, the remake. That gives me joy.
Oh, yeah, the remake. Obviously, I've not seen the original, because, you know,
not
it
quite
doesn't
that old.
exist. Have seen the remake. I know it's practically, you know,
Shot
like
for
carbon
shot.
copy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's great. What amazes me about that is, you know, you've got film students. It's basically just a sort of, you know, like, we'll do this. I mean, they're obviously fans and
Yeah.
stuff, but we'll do this and it'll
Doctor
be
what?
a big thing in our sort of exam.
I just think there's like some dictatorial teacher at the heart of all this who's like, you're doing this, it's my project, and you're getting failed if you don't act in it.
But Peter Purvis went to the screening, and he was talking about it and just saying how wonderful,
Yeah.
you know, and I just think it's a real thing of joy.
Yeah,
You know?
that's what I mean. It's just something that's special about
Yeah.
that particular story. All right, we've managed to avoid the original, but hey ho. Okay, Flux Chapter 3, Once Upon Time. So they're all jumping in and out of different identities. That's that one. What gives me joy thinking back to that one is your description of the Mori as being like a giant prog rock album cover.
That's right. Actually, yeah.
All right, let's try one more. Robot.
Oh, Robot. I mean, Jesus, what isn't to like about Robot? The scene with Tom Baker coming out of TARDIS dressed as a clown, a Viking, a bloody... what else did he dress as?
Some guy with a long scarf.
No.
I don't remember.
He does. He dresses as a Viking, a clown. Oh, yeah, a sort of Knave of Hearts.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
Sort of Alice in Wonderland.
And, yeah, that sort of thing. And he is... Basically, I think it's the most bonkers introduction for a Doctor, because Tom Baker is relishing it. He's got his teeth into something. He's been waiting for this fucking role for his life, and he is grabbing on with both hands and diving in.
I think my kind of happy memories for this were the kind of Target book, and that it was called
yeah.
The Giant Robot, and then when it does finally get blown up to giant size, that's great fun.
I like the Action Man tank.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's one of my favourite bits.
Lovely. Well, that was No Complications, and there may be further lack of complications in future episodes.
What's happening? You're becoming one of us. Who's us? The Tomorrow People. The Tomorrow People.
Let's talk about the Tomorrow People.
Hey.
So
Can't remember it.
It's been so long. This evening we sat and watched the Doomsday Men story from season 2, the end of season 2 of the Tomorrow People.
Yeah.
And this was, I don't know, I would class it as sort of high middling in terms of the word I'm going to use is quality of the series so far.
Quality.
I think my favourite moment was when I misread the title of episode 2, not as the burning sword, but as the bumming sword. Which I apologise for. It was perhaps slightly prompted by the fact that a lot of it's set in a Scottish boarding school. There's a lot of, as always with Tomorrow People, there's a lot of kind of homoeroticism going on.
Absolutely.
And there's like hazing rituals, which involve basically tying Stephen up at the top of a fire escape. Very beautifully lit, I thought.
True, but I mean, John was a total prick.
Oh God, yeah, he was like bad cop,
wasn't he? Every time Stephen jaunt's back
to have
because
a
he's
proper meal.
been tied up and he's out in bloody freezing, and John tells him to toughen up, and basically John must have been hazed at school a lot.
Yeah, at one point I think
just imagine John getting tied up and shoved in a locker.
Yeah, I was like, wow, who hurt him?
Yes.
But I think, I mean, it's supposedly set in Scotland, but they do not realise. I know they've got no money, but it could have managed a bit of rain, I thought.
Yeah.
But it also didn't look cold.
The one Scot in it was attempting a Welsh accent.
Oh, God, the accents were all over the shop, weren't they? It's like,
They were terrible.
yeah, but yeah.
And
So,
it's very camp.
yes.
Oh
I mean,
my God. From the McClellan, the head boy,
Yeah.
to the American on the space station in this powder blue sort of uniform with a powder blue peak cap.
I thought they looked like the uniforms from Star Cops.
Well, actually, it was more along the lines of Thunderbirds.
Certainly
as well as
performance-wise.
as well as the model work.
So to just break all precedent and be positive for a moment, I quite liked the writing and performance in Elizabeth's kind of moral argument.
She's good
For saving the astronaut. That was quite nice.
And it was. And also, I mean, let's be honest, the Chinese guy was like... he
was fun.
He was brilliant.
Yeah.
And he was the one that was speaking out against
the mental reprogramming.
brainwashing.
Yeah. But the whole episodes are it was 4-parter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Throughout the 4 episodes, there is a kind of subplot involving a terrible comedy traffic warden, which I sort of warmed to, but it's just so badly performed, and it looks like you literally snipped it out of a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's like comic interludes throughout.
He throws his hat down.
And we were very delighted at that.
We cheered because that is the drinking.
Well, that's
game.
now on our Tomorrow People tick list,
Bingo.
isn't it? I think we also completely filled in our Scottish cliche bingo card.
Oh God, yeah.
There is an achievement in the writing of making us sorry for the traffic warden by the end. Oh God, it's a strange tonal road bump, but
it is actually when you consider the episode's not necessarily its intention isn't to be funny.
Well, you can have comic relief, but it's filmed and performed and scored. The music
slapstick
like a sitcom.
I mean, the bit where he's sacked and dressed down by his boss is all
literally tearing his
there's no
stripes off him.
dialogue.
Yeah.
It's like gestures like "get out of here," pointing his hand, and he literally, you're saying, strips off the epaulets as if it's like some court martial or something.
And with these random 2 or 3 kids just standing watching.
I know.
I mean, it became funny because it was so odd. But anyway, there was lots else going on.
Oh my God, there was so much to go on.
So I kind of... Well, the space station stuff was interesting. It was a kind of...
a knockoff Nostromo, I would say.
Knockoff Nostromo. But on the outside, the model definitely looked like it was made out of the kind of lid of a jam jar and a bit of modelling kit. But they also managed to misspell Damocles.
That really pissed you off, didn't it?
It's called like Space Station Damocles. Yeah. And they had another E on the end of Damocles.
Yeah. And we had a prominent boom mic in shot.
Oh yeah, they were like down behind the computer Tim in one shot. It was fun. What else happened?
And they're always fucking eating.
I know. Well, at least the first episode. Like Elizabeth and John are back at base, just stuffing their damn faces the whole time.
While Stephen's there, sort of, he hasn't had anything to eat.
I guess that's the point, I suppose.
ages.
But it does a
But
bit.
every time Stephen came back, he was bloody tucking into something.
That was the hidden theme, was food, I think. But
Yeah, definitely.
no, oh God, Chris, what is it with Chris and vehicular hijinks?
Yeah,
it's like
it's
he had those car
always-
chases before with the hat
Well, I
throwing.
suppose it's to give him something to do, because, to be honest, he was superfluous to this episode.
Well, now that he's got this kind of big sort of radio that you can strap to your belt and jaunt with. You can,
Well, I
you can
don't
probably
think
go on the
that's-
adventures.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
no.
I don't know.
But no, it's very strange. I love that they take the van into space.
Oh,
to
Jesus
rescue
Christ. I
this
mean,
astronaut.
basically, but, you say that's silly, but they were pioneers because, you know,
Elon Musk.
done it, and of course they've done it in Fast and Furious 9.
Well, I mean,
So, you know, tomorrow people is trailblazer. that's what we could say. And of course, what saves the day but the Scots?
The bagpipes.
The Scots save the world. Bagpipes saves the earth.
I mean, wow. But they totally bungled their thrilling rescue into the space station, you know. It's like within
God,
2 minutes
yeah,
of them
that was so
arriving,
awful.
the missiles are being launched.
Poor guy gets shot.
I thought we should call the episode "In Space No One Can Hear Your Bagpipes."
Yeah.
And also, we get an empty mug acting award, which is also on my bingo card for all TV ever. It's like, it's one of those things that screams out at me. Is you can just tell whenever somebody's handling a prop mug that has no liquid in it.
Yeah.
And Stephen proceeded to fake drink from it throughout that whole scene, which it's just completely jumped me out of.
I did like the sort of ending in a little bit though, because they tried to make the guy, the general, think he was going mad.
They basically gaslit him.
You know, so they start playing bagpipes on the station, and they
wonderful
say,
line. Don't
"You're-
worry, grandfather, I'm a figment of your imagination." Wasn't
and
even
this
that.
is my friend. He's also.
She's also and ends with the space shuttle model coming to dock with the now rapidly
Oh
revolving.
God, yeah.
And I'm like, how's that going to dock then?
They'll just get the astronauts will just go out the payload and sort of take their chances.
We're just like, everybody push. No, I think there's a couple of interesting sort of things there. I think Elizabeth was very underused, apart from her moral speech.
She was, but she was still like more or less the best actor.
Yeah, still not.
Although I do think Stephen's actually a really good actor.
He's coming on, isn't he?
You know,
Yeah.
Peter Von Clark.
Oh, right. Okay. No, I've managed to avoid learning any or many of their names, though. Were we slagging off Sammy Windmill in Absentia at one point?
Oh yeah, because it was the windmill.
Yeah, and I said, don't tilt at Windmill.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. You're a week. They made some reference to, actually, there are human beings on other planets as well. And I was like, yeah, Kenny and Sammy. Kenny and Carol.
Yeah, we got rid of Kenny.
I wonder if that's the two they mean, or if there's lots.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh, fun times. Wow. So that was the
That
Doomsday
was-
Men.
no.
Do you know the title of the next one? We'll find out
I
in due
can't
course.
remember, but I do know that
Season 3.
Season 3, and it's the first appearance of Colonel Masters,
Yeah.
and we meet Tyso. And I
Tyson.
won't say anything.
Okay, fair enough.
Other than, do you want to buy a dog?
What?
I'll explain that one later.
All these corridors look the same to me.
This is Running Through Corridors, where I've been watching classic Doctor Who in order from the beginning, very intermittently, but we've watched Creature from the Pit most recently.
Yeah.
Yes, it's obviously infamous for certain scenes and certain elements of the creature design.
Yeah.
There's a scene where it's inescapably like Tom Baker is
God, yeah.
blowing into a green throbbing penis.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, God, there's the missing adventure. I don't want to know. But no, if you can sort of get over that, there's a lot to like in here, I think. You can tell that the villain is evil because she starts her countdown to carry out her vicious threats from 6.
Yeah.
Who the hell starts counting from 6?
That's really evil.
I mean, 3, yes.
Yeah.
5, okay. 10, classic. But 6? There's some interesting lines that I noted down. Time Lords have 90 lives. I've got through about 130. I think it's probably a throwaway line there.
Well, aren't they all?
It's like, how many timeless children were on screen?
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what, though? Right, I know what you say about the design of the creature, but I do think this is a rather good-looking story.
Oh, yeah.
Other than the creature.
Well, other than the creature's
everything
appendages.
else is really well done.
I mean, I really appreciate that they're trying to do a truly alien, non-humanoid monster, or not monster in this case.
It's just unfortunate, I think. You know, it's like, okay, we were given a design brief of, think, the Blob or something, you know, but
take away the protuberances and it looks great.
But again, it's another kind of, the rug's pulled away because it's like the Formazi, isn't it?
In what way?
Well, when the creature gets to speak eventually, it's like, it's quite
posh. But it's using other people's voices.
Yeah,
isn't it?
but it's very articulate and it's actually an ambassador and all that. You know, the way that, did somebody say Formazi? You know,
did somebody say
like,
giant throbbing green?
Yeah, you know, it's like the ambassador's reception and the Ferrero Rocher come out. Except
it is one of the Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah, you know, except it's green and throbbing.
Giant green Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah,
that'll be fun. Part 3 cliffhanger is unusual in that it's based around the baddie being scared.
Very few times that's happened. I know it's happened more than once, but I always remember, I think it's Demons Part 4.
That's the Master.
And then I think it's Enlightenment, maybe Part 2 or 3, it's Turlough. Remember?
When he's still villain Turlough.
Yeah.
But that's
I know that's skirting the line a bit, but you know.
We've also got a wonderful line about throwing astrologers at him, which I sensed the script editor hand of Douglas Adams there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the astrologer is brilliant, isn't he?
That's Belden, right?
Jeffrey Belden. He's fantastic.
Such
I
good fun.
love him.
Yeah, went on to play the Doctor in The Unbound, of course.
That's right, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I still to this day do not know why they didn't hire him instead of who played the Doctor in the Five Doctors?
Hurndall. Richard Hurndall.
Because I always think that he gives a much better performance like Hartnell.
But we do know that Hurndall's a lovely man.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Apparently. Yeah. Did you know that Jeffrey Belden played a grandfather who could travel in time with his grandchildren?
Really?
Seriously, for a TV show. It was it was an educational one for schools.
When?
Around about, I believe, might be the mid-90s sometimes.
Oh, right. Wow.
And I can't remember if it was actually called Time Travelling Grandad or something, but it was...
With Clive Dunn.
He would take them, you know, to history and stuff, but it was as if they basically said, oh, look, he is, you know, just
do Doctor Who,
make
not
him
call
Doctor
it that.
Who.
Yeah, what did they travel in? Was it a red phone box?
He just travelled, you know, and he could hold on to their hands. It was a bit like the Time Traveller's Wife, except he didn't lose his clothes when he travelled.
Probably not so
especially
good for
not with his grandchildren.
Oh, God. Well,
that's an Unbound all of its own.
Is that a British TV show, is it? Be a BritBox candidate?
Yeah, I'll need to look it up or something. Probably imagine it. I probably had a fevered dream one night and dreamt the whole fucking thing.
Fell asleep listening to Doctor Who Unbound. And yeah. K9 is played by a different voice actor from John Leeson. Is it David Gooderson?
Oh, do you know, I honestly can't remember if it's him.
It really sticks out.
This is how crap we are. You know, I mean, we don't... I mean, normally what would happen at this point is Tim would pause the recording, look it up, and then come back and sound really confident.
But now our crapness is sort of the point.
But I've actually just, I've unveiled, I've basically exposed the person behind the curtain.
You can see why he only lasted one season, and I was glad that John Leeson came back.
John Leeson is just... It doesn't sound right if it's not John Leeson, let's be honest.
And I'm not sure to what extent that's just kind of the prejudice of the familiar, and to what extent it's just less good a performance, and it's just really hard to separate that.
I don't necessarily think it's that bad a performance. I just think you're so familiar with one voice that it's really difficult to get used to somebody else. It's a bit like when I used to listen to the...
This is a story about you meeting someone on the bus again.
No. When I used to listen to the Harry Potter novels, and it's always Stephen Fry, and the last book came out, I downloaded it, started listening, and it was Jim Dale narrating it. And I couldn't listen to it. I actually could not listen to it, because I I was so ingrained with Stephen Fry's voice, and I feel it's the same way with K9 sometimes.
Yeah, no, good fun, and it's sort of, steady as she goes in this season, I think.
Yeah, you've got Nightmare of Eden next, haven't you?
Yes.
So, are you going to be all drugged out for your next one? Hey, man.
No, it encourages apathy, Rooksoin, I think, so I just probably won't bother watching it. But no, I was going to say I like the Wolfweeds as well as an idea. And they were, I think there was one interesting little behind-the-scenes thing that they filmed some of it backwards so they could be seen to sort of jump onto a creature. I think it's when they get canine, isn't it?
As I say, I think it's a really nice-looking episode. I don't think the plot's actually that bad.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's, like, when it comes to the best of Tom Baker, but I certainly think it sort of it benefits from having Douglas Adams input, that's for sure.
And it's an interesting idea about a sort of metal-starved planet.
Yeah, I like that.
All of that.
Interesting.
There's some political allegory going on there, but fun times. So, next up, Nightmare of Eden. Woohoo!
In my box are such delights.
So for Box of Delights, we chose Gormenghast, which is a TV series based on a series of books by Mervyn Peake. And so this was released in 2000. I think it was several years in the making.
Yeah.
A very, very huge and elaborate production. Yeah.
Actually.
And I've got a bunch of notes about it, so you want to just chip in whenever... whenever I let you.
Because you're prepared and I obviously am not.
So I wanted to talk about the books a bit first. So I mean, I've said before when we've touched on it that the language and the kind of poetry of the writing is glorious, but it's very slow, very, very slow to get going. But once it does, it's a really cracking plot with murder and fire and madness and all sorts happening. But so I guess the broad themes are the kind of the stultifying, dusty ritual of this sort of bizarre world of Gormenghast versus the kind of the freedom of the spirit and the heart and the wish to make your own life and live by your own rules.
Dust is definitely
that was in the production. It's like, literally everything is covered in...
if servants are full of dust.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, in fact, the original Master of the Rituals is called Sour Dust.
Really.
But we'll come to that because his character doesn't appear. So underneath the sort of initial sort of impression of all these really silly characters who are kind of larger than life, there's actually a lot of depth, and that comes out through the books. And by the end of the books, you really you feel you've seen all sorts of sides of them. So the Doctor, for example, is this sort of
he's like a preening peacock.
Yeah, and he chatters away.
He uses words as a sort of
it's like binds of time.
Like a sort of florid.
He's very verbose. He'll say things like my dear sister, by all that's relative, and stuff like that.
He sort of reminds me of Kenny in the way that Kenny would use 1,000 words when 3 would do.
Yeah. Oh man, we found Kerry's spirit animal. But he has this brain. He's clever, and he's quietly watching over the years that the plot unfolds over, and you can see his kind of true care and love for Fuchsia.
Definitely,
and his compassion, obviously.
And you can see that he is sharp. He says about Spearbite. He climbs quicker than a snake. Sort of, or when he's describing things and stuff, it's like he's noticing.
Yeah, and the writing's very clever with kind of there's this kind of subplot of the kind of creeping suspicion of both the Countess and the Doctor, and eventually when the two of them compare notes, as it were. That kind of really ratchets the tension up. It's like we know there's some badness going on here. We have our suspicions, but nothing proved. We've got Nanny Slag, who's just wonderfully played by June Brown in the TV series, and she's basically too old for this shit in 3 days from retirement.
She's so funny.
She's like, my poor art.
Yeah, every second, like, my art. You wicked girl.
There's a thing that I don't think they use this language in the TV show, but in the book, she's always saying, come here, my caution. I know, it's like, you're going to be the death of me.
June Brown, though, is wonderful. Yeah. I mean, it's like... you were saying that she always been that age because you just, but she's so good.
Yeah.
She really is.
But and the Countess is she's a much better leader when hunting steerpike than her husband ever was in the day-to-day of the castle. And
absolutely.
It describes in the book how Gertrude, that's her name, sort of seems to come awake while the hunt is on, while there's this job to do.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time she's kind of in her own completely separate world of her birds and her cats. But yeah.
And it was interesting because, I mean, Celia Emery felt completely different from what I would normally see her in. You know, she was playing a very different... Well, it's a different performance, what I mean is, you know, from what you would normally see her. I thought she was absolutely brilliant.
The Countess is a big character, both physically and in terms of her kind of authority.
Yeah, and Celia Emery's a bit, you know, she's quite small... You know, a small woman.
Yeah, we watched the behind the scenes, and at one point she sort of shows the huge platform boots they gave her under the skirt of the costume. Yeah, but Sepulchrave, the Lord Groan, there's really beautiful, kind of heartbreaking glimpses of his inner life, and you know he starts to kind of have this reaction to having a son because he's essentially a portrait of depression. But the you know that scene with Fuchsia as they kind of arrange out the pine cones to plan a new library, it's so sad and beautiful.
It's sort of beautiful as well because you see Fuchsia is like the closest she's ever been to her father. Yeah. And then he's slipping away and it's heartbreaking. But I think that's Fuchsia's character all in. She's, I don't mean this in any derogatory way, but she's that sort of girl who is longing for a father figure.
Yeah, already kind of. I mean, it's a portrait of parental neglect.
Well, yeah.
You know, there's the Countess has this line when Titus is a baby. So yes, bring him back when he's 6.
Yeah, you know, and even in her adult life, you know, and say if she was, you know, like any husband that she would choose would be a replacement for her dad. You know,
Fuchsia in the books especially is drawn to the novel and the quirky and the world of the imagination.
Yeah,
you know, she covers her walls and drawings.
Like they said in the, you know, she lives in a sort of perpetual fairy tale in a lot of ways.
And I guess this brings us to Steerpike, who's the kind of antagonist.
Wow.
And his kind of gift, I guess, we thought was that he just very quickly homes in on what people want and you know what will ingratiate him with them, what will move him forwards. But when he meets Fuchsia, he stumbles into her secret attic, and kind of almost by accident, he stumbles across the fact that if he clowns a bit and if he surprises her, then he's not a threat, and you know he can sort of
very much
get around the shock of the meeting.
He also had read the book, saw that she was Knight's Tales and you know, adventure, so he plays up to that.
Yeah, he sees the kind of world of her imagination in the books that are lying around her attic.
I mean, basically, he's got the gift of the gab, really, and he is...
later on, the gift of the stab.
Yeah, that as well. But I mean, yeah, he is literally a manipulator and a reader of people. But Jonathan Rhys-Meyers really does such a good job there, you know, because he, although you really hate Steerpike, you hate him, but you kind of love him as well, you know.
Well, he's always a thrilling character.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not quite sure what his machinations are going to go to next. And so
but he is totally mad as well.
Well, by the end, I think it's kind of this wonderful kind of scene in the book, which is also in the TV show, where he's kind of he comes to the corpses of the twins and finds himself seized by this urge to kind of strut and dance and prance around and does the most bizarre and inappropriate thing possible. But it's sort of an urge within him that comes out.
I think it's also interesting because his hatred for the system, you know, you can understand. You can. There is a justification of it slightly. I think he goes obviously too far in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
Murder and all.
there is a justification, and it's like he's of the modern. He says at one point they're very wasteful when he takes sword that's all full of cobwebs and dust and everything is just crumbling around them.
Yeah, there's this theme of his kind of rebellion and his kind of It's much more coherent in the TV show than in the books, but he has the speech with Fuchsia about equality and, the rich living in plenty and waste and the poor starving. And so all of that helps to kind of give him a direction and a cohesion of character rather than just being a bad one. But a couple more bits of background and talk about the TV show specifically. But so the TV version covers the first 2 books, which are Titus Groan and Gormenghast. The third book, Titus Alone, which I haven't finished reading yet, but it sort of follows on from where the second one finishes. And that was published, I think, after Peake's death, based on a complete draft and lots of notes. So it's a relatively finished piece. But I'd only just discovered a fourth called Titus Awakes. And I think this was sort of written from very loose notes, or at least fewer notes, and written with, I think, Peake's wife. But I haven't looked much into that. Although having a fourth book in the trilogy is very Hitchhikers, so I approve. The TV version, I would say it covers... I've recently reread the books. It covers most of the major events, very compacted, of course, but there's some really interesting differences that I wanted to talk about. And for example, so I made reference to Sourdust, who is in the book is the keeper of ritual, who's basically his job is to bully everybody into following all the kind of endless rituals and meaningless ceremonies that they have to. So, that like the eggs have to be blue on the 9th day of the month and things like that. So he is the original character who burns to death in the library fire. The TV version is always Barkentine, who in the books is Sourdust's son. Basically, those 2 characters are folded into one another, and it does slightly defang the library fire because nobody dies in it, which I thought was interesting. It's all very well executed, but it was quite the shock in 2 ways in the book. And one was a death, but the other way was subtler. It was that there was more fuss made about the books being lost than there was about the death of a human being. Exactly. Which was quite telling and, drove home the kind of the detachment of the aristocracy.
But what I would say is, by not having him die in the library fire and being there more or less to the end, you get Warren Mitchell giving up fucking magnificent performance.
He could have probably still played both parts, but
probably.
And it would have been the work of 5 minutes to have 2 characters, but I suspect it just streamlines things a little bit.
And I loved everybody sort of steep shite.
There's 100 different ways to say steer pike. But the no, I think that's the one change which I don't wholeheartedly kind of see the reason or the use of, because it does just slightly lower the stakes from that event in the books. And it was the kind of build up to the fire that was what hooked me into the plot when I was reading them the first time. Here's the cast list. We've basically got so Steerpike is played by Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Gertrude Celia, and we've mentioned Ian Richardson is the Earl of Crone, Titus's father, Sepulcrave. And Nave McIntosh, known better, covered in Scales to fans of Doctor Who, as Lady Vestra. Christopher Lee, goodness me! I think I was saying to you at the time, you could remake this now, and with modern CG, it would be spectacular. It's decent, but nowadays you could do it amazingly. But I don't think you could find this cast.
I don't think I think it's an irreplaceable cast.
Yeah, Richard Griffiths as Swelter.
Yeah, I mean another fantastic performance.
John Sessions as Prudence Squalor.
Oh God,
Fiona Shaw as his sister Irma. June Brown we've mentioned. Zoe Wanamaker and Lindsay Baxter play the twins, and they're spooky. They're just sort of completely in synchronicity.
They're wonderful.
Yeah. Stephen Fry. Yeah, so the second book, Titus has grown up a bit. He's a baby in the first book and has gone to school. So you get all these kind of very caricatured schoolmasters who are dusty old mortarboard wearing bunches of quirks and robes, and it is like a comedy Who's Who, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think James Dreyfus was saying on the behind the scenes interview that he was the only one he hadn't heard of. Which I thought was quite good. Yeah, he's Professor Fluke. You've got Professor Shred, Professor Mule, who was Steve Pemberton. Shred was Phil Cornwell. Martin Clunes, Professor Flower. Mark Williams, Professor Pert. Again, we own him from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Gregor Fisher, Spike Milligan.
Jesus. Eric Sykes.
Yes, as Mollocks. Yeah. He told a good story about having misheard them when they told him his character name on the phone. Windsor Davies. And you'd mentioned Warren Mitchell, who actually, I think he was my kind of all of them, I was sort of maybe most impressed by
Revelation.
The power of his lungs. He shouts his way through the whole thing.
I mean, he he was absolutely brilliant all the way through that.
Such good stuff. But other differences of the book. So Cada, who is Titus's wet nurse, and the mother of his therefore foster sister, as they call her, the Thing. Her backstory is very simplified. There's a kind of rather wonderful and creepy duel between two of her fighting lovers in the books, which is it's quite a gruesome scene actually. There's an extra scene towards the end with Fuchsia and Steerpike having a kind of a final reckoning, if you like, but that's not in the books at all. And also, actually, Fuchsia's death is given a lot more agency in this, as such as it is, because in the books it's a kind of darkly comic mishap that she's standing on the windowsill thinking of killing herself. There's a knock on the door, which still happens, but this knock startles her and she falls, hits her head, and that's it. And it's kind of extra horrible for you're not sure if she was going to go through with it or not.
Yeah.
Whereas it's
I suppose. Yeah. I mean, it was one of the saddest moments of it, really, because she's such a tragic figure anyway throughout the whole thing. She's a light in it, in terms of her vibrance, but it's just like she's so put upon or shit upon all the way through it, you know?
Diminished, and the whole thing is that nobody cares about her as a daughter of the house because they haven't had a boy yet, and when her brother is born, then she's all
and the only one, ironically, that cares about her, well, Nanny Slag out to a degree, but is the villain, Steerpike, and oh god, so that's sort of...
But the Doctor's he's spread too thin, he's by the end of the book he can't be there for her when she needs him.
The one who truly cares is Titus.
Yeah, well they definitely they grow closer as they both age, and that's quite a sweet relationship as well. But it's there's one more kind of note I guess that I had that it's sort of what reads to me in the books as a kind of building horror and a grotesque and a sort of drip, drip, drip of atmosphere is a little bit reduced in the TV, and it becomes very sort of dark slapstick, like the headmaster's death, which is utterly comic, and it still is in the books, but it's there's something about the way it's visualised that almost like when we were talking about the Tomorrow People with the kind of comedy music for the traffic warden, it's like you can almost sort of, it almost leans a little too far into that kind of just dark slapstick, in a way that it's a subtle thing. I'm not quite sure what my point is, but it's something about the slow burn, which you can do in the books and not so much on the screen, is lost. But that's I think it's still
the shorthand of it sort of takes away.
It lends to comedy because there's not that time to really kind of for the horror to creep in.
And of course the performance Spike Milligan's giving anyway is so the whole schoolmasters. Anytime you see them, it's just comedy. It's a comedy point every time. They're either all dusty dons. It's like that line in Shada about Chronotis, having, they were too polite to mention that he'd been there for 400 years or something.
I think it's when I first read the second book, I was least engrossed by some of the kind of school days stuff.
Yeah.
Because it felt very much kind of the time of the writing. Unlike almost anything else, it felt very much of the time of the writing of the books in terms of British boarding schools and all of that stuff. And I think everything else is kind of those themes and those kind of, the class system and all of that has remained as a relevant theme.
It sort of ties in a little to what we were talking about when we were watching it, that you see that and it reminds you of that sort of 1930s boarding school thing, but then we commented that when Steerpike is the administrator or whatever.
He takes over from Barkentine.
Yeah, it's like a Bond layer. There's metal and it's so modern looking.
That was such a shock visually that everything's all sort of wooden, dust and stone, and this is suddenly like a
clean
glass, kind of clean metal edges.
In fact, there was a point that Barkentine mentions why you're always so clean.
Yes.
Because nobody seems to wash or whatever, I don't know, but Steerpike is always immaculate.
No, and I didn't really follow through visually on any of that. It was just in one scene, really, I think. You're quite right, it's the sort of big shock of it in terms of the world that we've seen, and this suddenly feels quite modern in a way that because it's almost impossible to pin down a particular time period. There's there's no technology to speak of. It could be, the costumes could be medieval, we thought at one point.
Exactly. I mean, they've got typewriters and
that's right. There's a couple of people with typewriters.
Because actually, at one point, I thought there was a bloody computer.
It looked like one of those old computer room sets from Doctor Who in the 70s or whatever. But no, that's really interesting that Steer Pike sort of, to some extent, seems to represent modernity as well.
It's that thing of the aristocracy is stuck in one place.
Yeah, well, I guess as we approach probably the death of the Queen and the beginning of a new monarch, then these are still themes that are kind of pertinent, you know?
Yeah, exactly, because when that day comes, God almighty, my Netflix will be getting abused.
There's a couple of things in the behind the scenes documentary that we found quite astonishing. One was that the white crow that features prominently was apparently a rare or unique albino crow that they just happened to find ahead of filming.
He was reading the Telegraph.
That's right. Yeah. And they read the story about somebody finding this bird as a chick, and then basically phoned them up and said, train it for film work.
Yeah, and apparently it's the only one in the world, they claimed anyway. But
I wonder if they mean it's like a very rare species, but maybe, who knows. But, well, it had a glorious career, obviously.
Yeah.
But the other thing was the production designer was talking about filming models of the castles, of the castle set, underwater.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I had never heard of that before, and I don't know if that's gone from the world now. We have CG that is capable of it, but the filming in a tank of water gives you the scale and the sort of difference of gravity.
It also had an ethereal sort of quality to it.
It's like putting particulate stuff, so it's like dust in the air again and stuff like that. But that was really astonishing, and I've been meaning to look up what else that person had worked on, because he said he'd invented the technique years ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'd never heard of it.
I think a very kind of scattershot review of Gormenghast. It's so huge and the plot covers so much time and detail that I would absolutely recommend going to the TV show and the books if you have the stamina for it. The books are on audiobooks as well, which I very much enjoyed. But you got anything else to add about Gormenghast?
I just remember at the time there was a big publicity drive for it. You know, there was loads of trails. Mm-hmm. They had a Radio Times special. I do remember that. And it was very exciting because it's like possibly one of the most expensive productions to that point anyway that the BBC had ever done, and probably one of the most ambitious, because if you watch it now, it is to a certain extent a product of its time in terms of the technicalities, but I easily think that it could be broadcast without being too primitive, as it were.
Yeah,
it could easily handle a BBC 4 or a BBC 2.
You can see where it's green screen. You can, you can sort of see the model shots and stuff, but it's done with such love and care, and there were little details that I noticed that are straight out of the books that didn't need to be. So when Steer Pike finds Fuchsia's attic, he opens a box and there's a pear with a bite out of it. Yeah, and that's straight out of the book. Yeah, it's just stuff that's
a little, like you say, little things. Yeah. The other thing was that I have the Blu-ray, and we did notice actually how good it looked. Yeah, it had been upgraded because the extra they're making of was sort of
it's the same footage but noticeably worse quality.
Yeah, and it looked really nice. It's a good upgrade.
Lovely. Well, that was Gormenghast, and now it's time to choose something else from the box of lights, which we absolutely didn't have to go and dig out of a back bedroom.
No, not at all.
Okay, convincing sound effect finished. What are we going to pick?
Do you want to do it? I'll show you.
I did the last one, you do this one. Okay.
My sausage fingers will reveal it to be when I get my glasses on.
Talk about a slow burn and building tension.
Drum roll, please, while I have my eye drops.
Doesn't help us in my handwriting, to be fair.
King of the Castle.
Oh, I haven't seen that. No, remind me.
Early 70s children's series from the good people at Network. I think it was an ITV one, so you definitely wouldn't have seen it.
Right, lovely. So that is our next box of delight.
It's the end. But the moment has been prepared for.
9 times out of 10.
Thank you for listening. We've covered a lot this time, from Gormenghast to the Daleks, and I think we've lurched a bit lumpily between them. But if you'd like to get in touch, or if you could help us with our fluid links, we can be reached by email at randomizerpodcast@gmail.com. You can leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/randomizer, or follow us on Twitter at randomizerpod. And in all cases...
That is randomizer with an S. No, whoa, wait a minute.
What?
Mutants. I mean, you know...
The challenge.
Yeah, because...
I forgot.
I mean, you know, for all you know, I've watched it. I mean, you know, it could be that I've actually watched it, and you don't even bother to ask me.
So have you watched The Mutants?
No.
Where's the box? Where's our box of delights?
It's upstairs, so you'll have to pause this while I go.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sniffing.